Hi guys, welcome back to this African perspective. Thank you for stopping by. Today we are going to be diving deep into this topic about how annoying it is for you to have multiple rounds interviews with these companies. So like most times with jobs, like back in the days, people knew that okay, at least like with most jobs, highest you just have one interview or at least two interviews. But right now there are a lot of companies that will be telling you, oh, you're gonna have 5 round interviews with you or about 6 round interviews with you, and it's like, wait, are you for real? Because that is absolutely insane and it's too much. But a lot of people are actually fed up with this, so we're going to be going on a rant about this and people who have had experience with it. A big shout out to JB for $5 super thanks. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Please make sure you click the like button. It really helps with the algorithm and I appreciate that so much. Let's get right into this
The only one who thinks 4 rounds of interviews is absolutely absurd. Not only do you have to do 4 rounds.
Yes, that is ridiculous. In 2022, I had 4 round interviews with Snapchat. Even to get an interview with Snapchat, you have to know someone that knows someone. And I knew someone that worked there. So she referred me through her referral link. So they were interested for this one position. And then the next thing is I spoke to the recruiter, which was week 3 of me putting my application in. Then the next thing is I spoke with someone on the team that would be like a peer. And then that was maybe 2 months in. Okay. Then the third one was my boss, would have been my boss. Okay. But right before the third interview, the recruiter had emailed me and said, hey, I think you might also be really good for this position. And I said, okay, awesome. So I had prepped for both positions, except the title of the interview with my boss was for position 1. Okay. So I prepped and answered all questions for position 1. Then found out that it was actually a mistake and the boss was interviewing me for position 2, which then ghosted me. So then I followed up with a recruiter and I said, hey, what happened here? I was interviewing for this position, but she was asking me questions about this position. And recruiter responded back and said, yeah, she just feels like you weren't a good fit. And I said, okay, so we're 3 months into the process. We're 4 interviews in, and you actually interviewed me for the wrong position. And then you're going to dictate my abilities to do position 2 based on my interview of position 1. That doesn't make any sense. And she was like, yep, sorry.
I have a bachelor's degree in economics. I graduated with honors, magna cum laude, with study abroad experience and a semester early. So I have a proven history of hard work and reliability. That's not really a question with me. So when I was applying jobs, one of my first interviews for a full-time position after I graduated was with a staffing company in a city 4.5 hours away from my college town. And I was still in school when I started applying for jobs. So I had to travel and miss class and take days off of my job at the time to go interview for this. So it was a 5-step interview process for an entry-level position at a staffing company. 5-step process: phone screen, phone interview, virtual interview, in-person, shadow experience kind of interview, and then a final presentation to management. So I made it all the way through to the shadowing experience. So I was required to drive to the corporate office, which was 4.5 hours away, and do this experience if I wanted any chance of getting the job. So I drove the 4.5 hours. They wanted me to do it on a Wednesday. So it was the middle of the week. I drove 4.5 hours, 4.5 hours back the next day. I had to expense everything myself. They didn't offer a stipend. They didn't offer any kind of assistance. I, expense the gas for a 9-hour round trip, overnight stay, everything else myself. I get to this interview. The only thing they do offer to pay for is my parking in the parking garage that's connected to the skyscraper where the office is located. So that saved me $25, I guess. But I'm in this office. 3 separate people that I shadow tell me they are very money motivated. All 3 of them tell me they're very money motivated, which already was weird to me. The fact that all 3 of them said it. And all of them say that, it's kind of a hard industry, staffing isn't always great. The job market's not always what it should be, yada, yada, yada. And that also made me suspicious because they all said something kind of along those lines. So at the very end of the interview, I'm talking to this manager. She's going on about how she never expected to make as much money as she did right when she got the job because you earn commission, but you can only earn commission after the first year. I was like, oh, that's great. Like, I'm very motivated. Like, I think I could do well in a position like this. And she has this whole spiel. She turns around this iPad with these beautiful graphics in order to show me that the starting salary for this position is $35K. $35,000 to start for a full year. For a full year, you have no option for commission, and it's $35K. And it was a 5-step interview process. The position required a college degree with an analytics background. I had to travel a 9-hour round trip to do the interview. Not even the final interview, 4 out of 5 interviews. And she tells me it's $35K. And she's going on about how, after that you can start making commission, but it's the job market. It might change, it's not always what it should be. You might make less money some years than in others, but the base pay is $35K. $35K.
You know what is painful with this interview? Like, it's one thing if I actually have to do all those interview 5 rounds that you have or 4 rounds that you have for me, and you're still gonna hire me. But it's another thing when you're doing it just to waste my time, and you're really not hiring. You just want to waste my time. You really will tell me that you didn't know if you really want to hire me the first time, the second time, the third time, and you need to do it 4 times to 5 times before you realize that you really want me. At that point, I think you're playing games with me. So, like, if you even clearly know that you're not hiring for that position and you guys will just take someone from inside, then why are you wasting people's time? Like, do they even realize the mental stress it actually takes for you to actually prepare for interviews, especially for people who are not, like, people who get very nervous? Like, a lot of people get nervous with that. Like, talking to someone can be so draining. Like, you trying to compete for a position, trying to make sure that you're better than the others that they have to talk to, because you're not the only one who is spoken to. So it's like, it's so annoying.
I'm very sick of these jobs wasting my time. They'll put you through a phone interview, video interview, round 1, round 2, round 3. Gets to the in-person interview, they say that you're a great fit and still don't hire you. So you mean to tell me you put me through all these rounds of interviews just to get to the last one and say they're not going to hire me? That is so crazy for a job that I am 100% capable of doing. And not to mention, I have the experience to back it up. I have very much a lot of experience. And it feels like this is happening to a lot of people, because I see a lot of people posting about the job market is bad and stuff like that. Like, at this point, it's just getting ridiculous. Like, don't waste my time. Like, for real, don't waste my time.
Since when is it okay for an interview process to be 8 rounds long? I just had a phone screen with a recruiter, which was not a phone screen. It was an hour-long interrogation with video on. And at the end, she was like, okay, here are next steps. I wrote all of them down and counted. There are 7 more. Let me read them to you. Okay, get a load of this. The next round, round 2, a 45-minute take-home test, followed by round 3, a hiring manager interview. That's pretty standard. Okay, it's checking out so far. So then we go into round 4, a coding challenge. Then round 5 is a panel interview with 3 team members. Round 6 is 2 different case studies. One is about A/B testing and the other one is about funnel optimization. If you weren't counting that as the 3rd round of just at-home individual assignments, we had the take-home test, the coding challenge, and now the case studies. Then you have a second hiring manager interview to go over feedback from earlier interviews and ask any additional questions that popped up. And round 8 is the final round. It's a final interview with the VP and co-founder. And that's not even the best part. The best part is the salary. You would think for 8 rounds, all of that, it would be an outstanding salary. No, it's $55K. She read every single one of those steps to me at the end. She's like, how does that sound? And at that point, there's like a thing of drool coming out of my mouth. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're done. Okay, you just read an entire essay to me. But the thing is, if given the opportunity, I will be going through every single one of those steps.
If I'm being real, I also think that there's a bit of a God complex that happens at some of the senior levels of these companies where they're like, we are the chosen ones. We are the senior leadership and we need to find people who are modeled in our image. And in order to do that, we have to turn over every rock and we have to put them through a grueling series of tests in order for us to feel confident in our decision making. So about 10 years ago, there was this whole study that was published by Glassdoor, and essentially they were saying, hey, the harder your interview process is, the more your employees are going to be happy. Like they're going to come out of that process and be like, oh, that was grueling. But also maybe that means I work in a super elite place and I should be very grateful for my job. Like that was the takeaway. This is the same time as like the girl boss era, as like peak big tech era. So people start internalizing this and they look at the big companies like Google and they're like, oh, well, they have a 10-step interview process. Like maybe we should emulate that as well. And you'll notice that is when interviews start to get really scientific. Like, okay, it's a 4-part process. And this person that you're going to meet with is going to ask you questions about culture. And this person you're going to meet with is going to ask you questions only about technical things. Like it's the rise of these data-driven cultures where they're like, this is a science. We can actually find the best people if we just screen for it. So let's make the interview process as long and as exhausting as humanly possible. It's almost like without 55 data points, they don't have the confidence to make a decision. So they have to gather all these data points and then they have to rate people and then they have to take an average rating and then they have to hire by consensus. It's like nobody hires just based on gut or intuition anymore. It is basically like we put 1,000 people through this test and the remaining person who is the best, there is an obsession with being the best, hiring the best. And so there is a disproportionate amount of time and energy put on the interview process. And that is why your interview process now has 5 interviews, 10 interviews, sometimes more.
As rough as the job market is right now, you know that most of this, I don't even know why, majority of the time, like these managers, hiring managers that bunch themselves all up to talk to someone and interact with them. It's like, I'm supposed to have an interview, but why you guys are actually coming as a group to talk to me? It's like, if they're going to be doing that, is it that they really do not have a lot to do? Because why do you have so many hiring managers actually having time of the day to sit down and talk to you? Because I think the worst type of managers you work for are those that don't really have responsibilities on their own. So they have to always pretend and act like they have so many things to do or find activities to do to make sure that their position sounds like it's important in that field as if it's needed. So those type of people are even worse to deal with because they would have so much time on their hands. Because why are you guys having so much time to have 5 rounds with multiple people? You're not having it with one person. And you guys know that you're not even going to hire. So what are you doing? Like, they waste someone's time. They're wasting your time because they have nothing to do.
Yeah. Let this be a warning to you guys. If you have a job interview and they hire you almost on the spot, don't work there. There's a reason everybody had left. I had one job interview. We sat down with each other. He said, first things first, do you have a car? I said, yes. He's like, fantastic. And he's writing that down on paper. I'm like, why you? That has nothing to do with the job. The job didn't even involve a car, right? By the time the interview was done, he said, well, we're going to look this over and we'll give you a call back in a while. I thought it was going to be a couple of days. I left the building. I was walking to my car. I get a phone call. It's the guy from inside the store. And he's like, yeah, you got the job. I did not take that job.
Something that I would have never expected to happen to me ended up happening to me. So I finally got a job after being unemployed for 6 months and just being put through the ringer and facing rejection after rejection and being this close so many times. I finally got a job that I was excited about and I was passionate about it. The weirdest thing is that after I get off this call of them telling me that I got the job, I was with my mom and I told her that I have this weird feeling in my gut that it's going to be taken away from me. And little do you know, 3 days later, I get an email from the company saying that they are rescinding the offer. So at this point, like any human does, I am throwing myself the biggest pity party on this planet. I'm sending out invites to my friends and my family. The invites are stamped with tears. And I just fall into this super dark place that I've been in before. And after facing so much disappointment and rejection, I have learned and mastered the skills of having inner strength, both here and up here, and to be able to pull myself out of these dark places and to dust myself off and try again. And that is a life lesson that I know that I needed to learn. But ultimately, what got me out of this dark place was remembering the mantra that rejection is redirection and divine protection. And I fell off the course of my divine path. And so here I am driving my little car of life, just hitting wall after wall. And the universe had to come in and course correct me. And so I don't know what the destination is that I'm being brought to, but what I do know and what I have faith in is that it is just beyond my wildest imagination and the most beautiful place that is just prepared. All the puzzle pieces are together and they're there and they're just waiting for me to arrive after I've learned these lessons. And as hard as it is to sit here and go through this, I know that ultimately I am much better off for it because I am divinely protected by the universe, and that once I get to that destination, I will be so appreciative of the journey that I had to go through to get there and have even more appreciation for the destination itself.
A recruiter admitted to me this morning that she had no intention of actually hiring someone for the role. I had done this final round interview and I was feeling pretty good about it. So I got this call from the recruiter and I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is my offer. Well, actually, silly me, she was actually calling to verbally reject me. But I took the opportunity. I was like, oh, well, while I have you here on the phone, I have a few questions for you. So I'm basically just asking for constructive criticism. Like, what could I have done better? Like, how can I improve my resume, etc. And she said something that was like a red flag. She was like, there's not really much else you could have done better. Like, we knew for this role that we needed someone that had a lot of company specific experience, so it was probably going to be hard to find an external candidate who had that, which okay, I kind of get. Like, it was a relatively niche company. It's not like it was like a bank or something. So then I was like, oh, well, were you able to find an external candidate with the company specific experience? And she hit me with some corporate jargon being like, we've actually closed down the position for now and we're going to refocus our search internally, aka they thought the role needed someone with company specific experience, so they're literally just going to hire someone who already works at the company. It's like, okay, so when we did a phone screen 5 rounds of interviews ago and you looked at my resume and saw that I didn't have company specific experience, why did you continue to pass me along each round? Like, if that was the make or break criteria for whether or not they were going to hire someone for the role, like, they clearly had no intention of hiring an external candidate. It's just frustrating. Like, they're just playing games.
You can't get hired anywhere unless you have like 10, 15 years of experience, but the people they have working for them.
I'm going to let you all in on a little secret here. If you see an entry-level job posting that says you need like 5 or 10 years of experience, no, you don't. Apply to that job anyways, because a lot of the times the person hiring for that role has no idea that those requirements are even on the job posting. Like, I think what's happening is that these older generations, their only measure of success was, did you go to college? And if they did, they pretty much got the job. But like, as the job market became more saturated over time, companies got more selective about who they hired. So they introduced all these really arbitrary measures for candidates. And a lot of the times, I think that they overshoot these things in hopes that they're going to like weed out the bad candidates or whatever. But if you think you're underqualified for a position, you're not. Apply to it anyways. And the worst thing that can happen is that they'll say no. And if they do, just take the L and move on. That company wasn't right for you anyways.
When people even complain and be like, oh, we're not hearing back from them, or they send me an immediate rejection, I feel like that is way better for you to get an immediate rejection than for you to actually be getting someone call you and tell you, oh, we're gonna have an interview with you, and they'll keep going around with you knowing that they don't want to hire you. Like, which one is more painful? Would you rather someone save you your time by sending you an immediate rejection knowing that they do not hire, than someone who would actually talk to you? Because they have those ones, they ain't got nothing to do. They have time of the day. They will sit down, ask you a bunch of questions, make you actually, some to the extent of going to study in preparation for that interview. Like, for those people who work in tech, because we know the ones who will work in the tech field, those ones actually have a multiple rounds interview. And now even some jobs that are really like, how much do they pay? Like, how much do you really pay for that? Like, for you to even be having multiple rounds interview, like, please, like, I know it's like we shouldn't look down at any job, but like, really, like, there's just some that you really don't need to do that, because it's a job that anybody can do. Like, literally, it's something that you do not need to learn to know how to do it. You're applying for these jobs, they'll be asking you questions that is already on your resume, and they will need you to actually fill it up, and they need you to actually be answering a bunch of questionnaire questions. You already, like, this is just the first stage before you even start getting deep into the application process or stuff like that. And then at the same time, they will still want you to, do some tests. Like, why are you giving me tests? I'm already filling in this application, having to, always open an account. Anytime I'm trying to apply for a job, I need to open an account on your website. It's like, why do I need to do that? I can just go send in my application. You guys didn't need to like make things so complicated. And I feel like the whole thing about them actually making so many things as more complicated than it used to be is just so many signs and red flags that, oh, you guys just really don't take people for granted and have no respect for people. And then I was like, are they really trying to punish people for what happened during the pandemic? Because a lot of people were quitting their jobs. That was when you were hearing things like quiet quitting. Oh, people are doing this, people are doing that. Oh, loud quitting, like I ain't doing this job. So maybe they were like, oh, you know, bet, like we're gonna deal with you guys, because that's what it looks like. But anyways, guys, that's it for this video. You guys let me know what you think about this video in the comment section down below. And also make sure you please click the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and hit the notification bell to get notified every time I post a new video. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.